Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Dateable AF podcast because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I am your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm a co-host, Rachel Howell, a researcher extraordinaire and a single lesbian dater.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're so excited to be talking to you about our topic, UHaul or hell no, because we know you women out there have a tendency to go to one extreme or another. You may not get the reference if you are a younger dater, but the joke used to be, what does a lesbian bring on the second date? And the answer is
UHaul.
That's right. We tend to move very quickly, and either we want to move in with someone right away or we want to kick them to the curb right away. So we are here today to talk to you about the possibility that there might be some middle ground here.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start is pacing. So Dr. Kyle, a very common question amongst daters about how to pace out contact, communications when you're first dating someone.
Yes, pacing is such a good topic to talk about because I think people ask me this question a lot in therapy. So not just lesbians, but you heterosexual daters out there too, and gay men, of course. We don't want to forget you. But pacing is one of those things that people are always asking, like, how soon should I call someone? How often should I text someone? How soon should I ask for a second date? And the answer is be authentic. There's no magic formula for the time you should wait between a date and texting someone or between one text and the next. But if you're feeling like texting someone, don't hold yourself back and set some artificial deadline of I have to wait 24 hours. And if you're not feeling like texting someone, don't make yourself do it.
Well, there's this phenomenon out there between women, and I think probably between people that are just trying to date in this day and age, that there's something to being cagey, that someone, you go out with someone and then you don't want to seem like you're too anxious or you're being cool by not texting back, waiting to see if you're going to hear from them because you don't want to be the first person to put that out there and not be texted back or contacted. And to your point, what I find is having good social skills and nice manners is that anytime you go out with someone, there's an appropriate response that needs to happen. Whether or not you want to date them again, it is the acknowledgement of an outing.
Yes, so much this. If you've gone out with someone, whether you had a good date or a bad date, you acknowledge that you went out with them. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to see them again. The acknowledgement might be, hey, thank you so much for your time last night. I don't think we're a fit for each other, but I wish you all the best. But you are exactly right. Some sort of acknowledgement that you had the date is good social skills.
The other is, if you really are dating someone and you're in the early phases of that, then how often do you see one another that feels good to both of you? Because
Yes.
I do think there are some people that I've dated that really immediately want everyday contact. And that can feel sort of weird when you're first dating. And then I've dated people who go for a week at a time before you have contact. And that doesn't feel great either. So to your point, this happy medium.
Yes, for sure. And I've seen people that are really insecure that freak out if the person doesn't text them right away. For me personally, I get dogged for this all the time. I am terrible at returning people's texts, even to
Yes,
the
you
people
are.
I love.
Yeah, you are.
I know you can vouch for this for me, Rachel. If I'm busy during my workday, I'm usually seeing back-to-back clients all day. So if you text me at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm probably not going to come up for air again until 6 p.m. And if you get insecure because I didn't text you back right away, we're going to have a problem because that has nothing to do with how much I like you, how much I want to communicate with you. It just has to do with the fact that I get busy and don't have a moment to come back. So I've spoken with people about the dating process where, they may text someone first thing in the morning and they don't hear back until the next morning and they get really nervous and think the person doesn't like them. I would say this isn't a sign that they don't like you. This is a sign that they have a life outside of you, which is a green flag, not a red flag.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing that comes up, I'm just going to put it out there because, again, I'm in the dating world, is the pacing of sex and how you enter that arena. There's obviously the natural, both people, that energy is present. That's what you want. But having been a dater of bisexual women, that brought up a different topic before I was ready to engage in that. And that was related to how, if they were currently dating men, and then the possible exposure to STDs.
And tell me more about why that's an issue with bisexual women. And you wouldn't necessarily, I'm assuming from what you said, you wouldn't necessarily see that as an issue if it was just a woman who dated other women.
Research absolutely backs the fact that you are more likely to get an STD in heterosexual, or less likely to get an STD if you're having female to female sex. And that is something that I think people need to be frank about if they are engaging in both those things. It certainly goes without saying, if you currently have an STD, you need to...
You got to think about that.
You need to bring that forward.
Yeah, which is an additional pacing issue that we might want to talk about, because people bring this up in therapy a lot. When is the right time to disclose this? And what I would say is, you don't necessarily need to lead with that on the first date, letting someone know they have an STI or an STD. And you also don't want to wait until you're naked in the bed and about to get after it. So know then, because that presents a whole other awkward situation. So I would just say, once you get to know someone and once you start knowing that it's heading in that direction, it's a good time to have a frank discussion about sexual health. And that should be regardless of whether you're dating men, dating women. Talking about sexual health is absolutely a foundational piece of a solid relationship.
And certainly has been my experience in dating.
Yep. So if you were dating someone related to what you brought up, Rachel, I think it's important to figure out if you're someone who's comfortable dating and or sleeping with multiple people. And if you're not, how do you talk about that with someone?
Well, it's certainly something you have to think about in the beginning phases of dating, because the essence of the word is dating. You are dating. Back to the whole UHaul concept. Some people just naturally know that they can only date one person at a time. That's fine.
Yep.
Some people really are wanting to date and they're wanting to try on a number of pairs of shoes. Doesn't mean they're trying to marry them, but they are doing that. And that is a conversation that you probably should have fairly early on, because if you have some strict rules about not wanting to date and you're just making an assumption because you're not wanting to do it, someone else is also not doing it.
Yes.
That's a big assumption.
That's such a good point, because I think we tend to assume everyone looks at things through our lens. And if I'm dating you and I really like you, I probably don't want to date anyone else. So am I assuming that you also are dating me and really like me and you don't want to date anyone else? Those are good conversations to have rather than making assumptions.
And you'll hear in our first episode about Sarah's groundbreaking efforts in the establishing the dating beast. She's absolutely an expert in this area of dating women at one time.
You know it. I mean, does it count that it's been decades since I've done that? I mean, when Joe and I first started dating, to be fair, both of us were coming out of fairly long-term relationships, and neither of us wanted to jump in. We met each other and knew we liked each other right away. This kind of goes back to our UHaul conversation, that we both knew that we didn't want to move in quickly. We didn't want to stop, seeing what was out there. So we both dated other people for the first, I would say solid year and a half of our relationship. And it was funny because we kept gravitating back toward each other, but we also sort of forced the point of not jumping in too quickly.
And I think that's exactly why you guys are married and have a really fine relationship today, is that you kick the tires, so to speak, for a good period of time. And
We did.
the other thing I want to talk about is courting. I have to tell you that I have found women close to my age, and again, it could be 10 up or 10 down, but generally, they are just terrible at it. And
Define courting. Tell us what you consider to be courting.
courting to me is putting your best foot forward and doing something to show somebody that you're thinking about them, that you're doing something special in the beginning phases, that you're thinking about your favorite restaurant that you want to take them to, your favorite museum, your favorite experience, whatever that is, and that those are great first dates. I mean, not first dates, but in the beginning dating phase.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of women are lazy about, oh, I don't go out to eat, so I don't know restaurants.
Lazy. Where would you like to go? I don't know. No, that is not the right answer. You got to pick a few things that you love or that you're excited about trying and throw those out there for the person.
And it also shows that you have some interest. And that's the other piece, that you're an interesting person, that there are actually things that you love to do and that you don't just sit at home and watch TV all the time and that's all you know.
Yes. This is a point that you will hear me come back to over and over, is that successful relationships are based on you being both interested and interesting. And so interested means that you're going to make the effort to pay attention to what the other person likes. And interesting means that you're going to bring some things you're passionate about to the relationship. And I think both of those things factor in to this process that you're calling courting.
Absolutely. It also is about showing up in a nice way, in nice clothes, in a clean car, just some things that are nice, showing up with a nice bottle of wine, or always, I've had this young woman that has great social skills. She never comes to my house without something in her hand. Even if it's these beautiful little succulents, she just, and we're not dating.
Yeah, she just shows up with something lovely that she knows you might like.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. And to your point about wearing nice clothes or you don't want to roll up in sweats with your McDonald's wrapper sitting in the footboard. Like, no, this is not making a good impression. And, we've talked about this before, you and I, Rachel, about what's the difference between trying to be someone you're not and putting your best foot forward.
Yeah. And I do think that you have to be able to be your authentic self. And as you're exploring one another, you're going to learn what that is. But if you're showing up without a lot of effort because you think that you're not being authentic, that's different than not doing something special. Showing up and being special, thinking, this time I feel like it's special. I want you to know I feel like it's special. And so I'm gonna look nice, put a little effort into it. And eventually the person will know that your favorite clothes are pants with, elastic waistbands and
stretchy pants,
and that secretly you eat it at Chick-fil-A.
What? I don't know what you're referring to at all.
We'll expose that at another time, but you learn these things. These
nasty, Rachel's about to out me about something.
Nasty, deep, dark secrets about Chick-fil-A.
I mean, we're early in our podcast journey, so I don't feel like we need to be outing each other's secrets quite yet, but we'll get to that at a later episode. I might or might not have made someone go through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru yesterday.
That might have made her feel sort of yucky that whole day. And I don't know if it was shame or the actual nugs, as you call them.
Those nugs would never make anybody feel bad. I just want to say I do make a donation to a gay cause every time I come through that drive-thru. But
yes.
But on and back to our subject matter at hand. If you pull a wrinkled up shirt out of the bottom of your drawer and put it on for a date, you're not showing the person that you're caring to make an effort. So I don't think that you need to go out and buy a new outfit or get a new hairstyle, or if you don't wear makeup, don't put on makeup for a date if that's not what you normally do. But be your best self. Put your best foot forward, meaning shower, be clean. That could lead us into a whole discussion about these body deodorant commercials that I keep seeing. But anyway, so that is a part of being your best self. That's part of the courting process, is be clean, be tidy, show that you took a minute to take care with what you were wearing or how you're presenting yourself.
And for those of you out there listening, if you think that this is just a given, we are here to tell you that it is not.
It is not.
It is not a given. We are not talking about anything on our podcast that we have not
experienced ourselves, or had clients who I have had
heard about,
experience, or we've had single friends that have experienced. So yes, having a car that looks like you live in it. I think Rachel might have had a date or two with somebody whose car looked like they lived in it. So, that's probably going to be a no-go for you. I'm just guessing. Having been in your car, you keep it very tidy, and I don't know that you could date someone who had their whole life in their back seat in their trunk.
I'm a sporty girl, but I don't feel like I need to be sporty in my car.
Yeah, I like
as in locker room sporty.
Yes. Yes. So do not keep a locker room in your back seat, ladies. Come on, step it up a notch.
Well, what about the whole idea, and this is so perfect for UHaul, is jumping out of one relationship and right back into the other?
Ooh, lesbians are famous for this. As a matter of fact, I think both of us included, we have sometimes been known to jump into a relationship before we have fully extricated ourselves from the last one, which is definitely not a good idea. And
it's way too soon.
Way too soon to talk about this part of our dirty laundry. But
like we said, we have had experience.
Yes, and we are here to tell you, don't do that, ladies. It's not a good idea. But yes, so even when people break up first and then meet someone right away, I think I'm making a generalization here, but women are connectors. We typically like to have connections in our life. And when we feel the void of a relationship that just went away, sometimes we're really anxious to refill that and get someone else in there as quickly as possible. And it doesn't give you time to find yourself.
Right. The other thing that you have mentioned, and it makes perfect sense, is that if you don't spend some time by yourself, sort of getting out of that routine that you're used to of being with someone, then you try to recreate that situation with someone else.
100%.
And you're not giving that relationship a chance to create its own rhythm.
Routines and all. Yes, absolutely. So if you're used to, waking up on a Sunday and cooking pancakes, if you did that with your last partner for 20 years and now you got a new partner, you're going to start doing that with a new partner instead of figuring out, what routine might we create together that's just ours. You're inserting that person in where your old relationship left off. And I don't think that's fair to you, and it's certainly not fair to your new person.
My personal experience with this is, as you sort of alluded to earlier, when I reflected back on how many years I had been in relationships. I had been in a relationship from the time I was in college until my last relationship ended, and that was 17 years long. There was very little, if any, break in between those. And the best thing that I have ever done for my own personal mental health and growth when I got out of my most recent relationship was to spend 2 years not even considering a date.
Tell me what you learned about yourself during that 2 years.
I definitely did the reset that you were referring to. I mean, I bought a new house, building my home by myself for the first time, setting up a life that was just surrounded by me and how I wanted it to, curating a life that was in the ways that I wanted it to be as a single
just
person.
Yours. Yes, absolutely.
And learning a lot about giving consideration to the things that were really good and healthy in my past relationships and the things that were things that I did not want to repeat. And then knowing that when I started dating again, I feel like I have been the most grounded in my ability to healthy date right now than I have ever been.
And it sounds like you spending that time by yourself was a part of what let you reset so that you could be more grounded.
It is. And to know what sort of things I would bring to the table. Very clear about the feeling I love in my home. I'm very open to sharing that with somebody, but I'm also very guarded about who I let into it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That reminds me of two things. One, I know that you love to cook and that's something that you do a lot for your friends and for the women that you're dating if they get in that far. I also know that the person that you were in the long-term relationship with liked to cook a lot. And so I can imagine that you weren't sure if that love of cooking was yours or if that was just something the two of you did together. So that's something that you figured out once you became single, like, oh, this is something I actually like to do on my own.
It's a great example because she was an excellent cook and I was a sous chef. So I wasn't fully clear about, I wasn't fully clear if I had the desire or even the ability to cook at the level that we cooked. And you're right. It's been a learning experience for me. And it is a very important part of my life now. I love it and embrace the challenge of it and all that, the smells, the entertainment, everything that surrounds it, I love.
Yeah. And I love watching you do that because I can tell you're so passionate about it. It's really fun to see that emerge in you. The other thing I was thinking about when you were talking about buying your house and creating the space for yourself is that sometimes housing is one of the reasons that lesbians move in together more quickly than they would otherwise. I know that I had the experience one time of I had gone through a breakup and we owned our house together and we put our house on the market. And while it was on the market, I met someone else and started dating someone else. And when the house sold, it was about 6 months later. And ordinarily, that feels really soon to move in with someone. But because of the timeline, it was like, well, I mean, I guess I could buy another place on my own and sell it later, or I guess I could sign a lease somewhere. But then I'm going to be locked into that lease for a year. And so that's going to pop out my timeline for moving in with this person. So I decided because of the timeline to just go ahead and move in. And it was way too soon. And I think had I waited and just bought myself that time, that I may not have even ended up moving in with this person at all. So I hear this a lot, that circumstances like that, like, oh, my lease is up or I have to move out of the place I'm in for whatever reason, I'll just move in with my girlfriend. Not the best reason.
It is very common, especially when you're younger and you haven't accumulated a lot of assets. And so what you are considering are leases versus mortgages.
Yes.
And that is different to your story, that if you had waited that 6 months, if you had gone ahead and made a different decision, then you, like you said, you might have learned a bit more about yourself and yourself with that person to realize that probably, just to be clear, that person is not her wife now. Is the person that you were going to be clear. Yes. that wasn't the right relationship.
Yeah.
And though you think you're solving a problem on the front end, you're doing a quick fix to something that causes a bigger problem when you have to untangle that. And if you're the person that is not on a lease, then you're out again, still trying to find a place. It is.
You're solving a short-term problem and creating a much longer-term problem. I was also thinking about someone that I know that shall remain nameless. It's a couple that started dating recently, and they moved in together really quickly. They both own their own houses, and one of them just, maybe a couple of months in, put her house on the market. And, TBD, how that's going to turn out. It feels really scary to give up a financial investment, a place that you love, when you've only known someone a few months. So we don't know how that's going to turn out yet, but we shall see.
makes me kind of scared just thinking about it.
It's just, I could see you shaking a little bit over there.
Hi, over here.
Even as we talk about it. So, yes, moving in with someone because of a logistical situation or because you just went through a bad breakup, not the best idea.
What about not trying to change someone?
Oof. This is it's a subject that is near and dear to my heart as a therapist. If I could give one piece of advice to someone who was starting a new relationship, it would be never assume that you're going to be able to change this person. You have to look at them and be able to accept them just as they are. That doesn't mean you like everything about them, but it means nothing about them as they are right in this moment is a deal breaker.
Yeah, that is a big deal. And I have learned some valuable lessons in this stage of my life about that. Trying to tease out as I'm dating the difference between big things that are dysfunctional, someone that drinks too much, someone that smokes and you're not a smoker, maybe somebody with some undiagnosed mental health issues that they're not working on, whatever those things are. Those are big things that
would be dysfunctional in any relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But then there are the things that are not necessarily something that is wrong with the other person. They just don't match you. And so a great example for me is dating someone who's not used to communicating openly. They are used to, in family history, walking around the elephant in the living room.
Yep.
And that's not it can be a bad thing if you're needing that higher level of communication in a relationship.
Yes.
So I have learned to not fall into wanting to get someone to change. And also it sounds judgmental. It's hard to talk about that without it sounding judgmental. Versus me just looking at that person and going, you are fine just the way you are. I'm just not the girl for you.
Yep. And a lot of that, Rachel, is how people hear things. And people hear things through a filter of their level of security. So it's an example I use in therapy a lot, that in finding a therapist, it's like finding a good pair of shoes, that I could recommend some shoes to you. I could say, oh, you're starting to run, you should get Nikes. And you might try those Nikes on and they don't fit your feet at all. Well, those Nikes are perfectly good shoes. They're just not the shoes for you. And so if I hear from someone like, oh, I don't want to date someone who gets up at 6 a.m. That's not a fit for me. Well, there's nothing wrong with me because I get up at 6 a.m. It's just that I'm not a match for that person because I'm cramping their style. And so if I'm secure in myself, I don't take that personally. Whereas if I'm insecure, I'm going to feel like they're criticizing me.
And that is spot on. It is made for I've had a few challenging conversations because I've been approached about why aren't you willing to talk to me about those things? And at the point at which I feel like I am being critical of you is the point that I feel like I need to back away from that. And I don't, if you're the person that's asking for that, you need to be very willing to receive what someone's giving you.
Yes. And so that, I want to hear a little bit more about your experience with that, because I think that there's a fair point in saying, I don't know, let's take something small like, oh, hey, I noticed that you leave your dishes in the sink at night and I'm someone who likes to put them in the dishwasher. How important is that to you?
And I think that's why you have to know yourself. That's why I think you have to spend time with yourself. You have to do the work on yourself to know when those are the things that are just petty. And you say to yourself, I hate it when you leave your shoes, but you know what? It bothers me more than it bothers you. So I'm just going to pick them up.
Yes, absolutely. So if those dishes in the sink bother me and you say, oh, sorry, I'm probably never going to be the girl who puts my dishes away. I have to decide then, like, is that an issue that's worth me no longer dating you? I don't know. Or would it be easier for me to take 30 seconds and put the dishes in the dishwasher for you? Or for myself, really, actually not for you.
I know these things sound, in some ways they sound sort of trite or small,
No.
but these are the things that people make they pick at each other and they make poor decisions around all the time. And I think women enter relationships assuming that they can, oh, that bothers me, but I'll fix that. Yep. And no, it doesn't work like that.
Yes.
Now, there is a difference in always being able to hear your partner and make changes and shifts. Absolutely. We all give and take.
Yes. And it's also, I say that we look at the level of importance. So if something's super important to me and not important to you, then we got to take a look at how we're going to balance that out, right? That, for example, you don't typically put your dishes in the dishwasher at night, but it's super, super important to me. And you're like, oh, no big deal. It will take me 5 seconds. I can do that. Or you can say, no, I don't want to be bothered at the end of the night with the dishes. So I'm probably never going to do that. So it's a matter of talking through it. But I do agree that giving someone a heads up about, you don't just blow up the relationship and say, forget it, I don't want to date you. You at least give them a chance to say, oh, that's not a big deal to me. I don't mind shifting that.
And I will own the fact that I'm a fairly tidy person.
And about you.
And so are you,
yes.
Joe.
Yes.
And that I really would not be able, I could take somebody leaving dishes every now and then in my sink. I know that. And if you don't
take your stuff, food on them.
We would have to talk about that. We would have a serious discussion, but just kind of a general overall slob. You'd have to be excellent in the bedroom for me to overlook that.
I don't know. I don't even know if that would be an appropriate trade-off, but I'm real good in bed. I mean, what I would say is if you're going to leave your water glass in the sink, I'm good with that. But if you want to leave your crusty plate in the sink with a bunch of food on it, I might have to draw the line there. So these are all things that do have to do with compatibility. But if you go into something, I have an example of this that I have not been a smoker. It's kind of a miracle probably that I never did start smoking, but that is not one of the vices I've had to deal with in my life. I won't add that to my list of vices. But I started dating someone and I found out that she was a smoker. And I really weighed that out. Like, oh, can I deal with this? But she said, I don't want to be a smoker. I've always wanted to quit. I'm going to quit smoking. Well, months into the relationship, she started smoking again. And it was a really tough thing because I met her as a smoker and she voluntarily said she wanted to quit, but then she started smoking again. So that was a hard balance. It's like, oh, I picked someone expecting or hoping that she was going to change. So,
perfect example.
Yep. So you got to figure out those things right up front and don't enter something if you can't accept the person where they are.
And that's a good segue into thinking about bigger conversations, harder conversations.
Can you think of an example of how that comes up for you in your dating bee?
There's certainly whether or not you're dating someone that have kids and whether or not they have young kids that are in the house. That's a huge conversation to have.
Yes.
And then there's the conversation, if they have grown kids, then they're still your kids, and sure. They're going to be involved in your life.
Yes.
And you cannot ignore that. And I am a stepmother to a lot of children.
You're a professional stepmother.
I am a professional stepmother. And I will tell you straight up that for all you biological mothers out there that are trying to partner with somebody who you think you're going to turn into a stepmother, you guys need to have a lot of conversations and make sure you're on the same page about who is the good cop and the bad cop and what the expectations are around time spent.
Yes.
And then how that works if the kids are in the house and how you manage discipline and all those things. And Sarah, I mean, you can speak to this firsthand.
Yep. And this could be 5 episodes all on its own about how to manage step parenting with another person. But yes, those are for sure huge decisions. And I think as someone who I have 3 kiddos, it is really hard to imagine what it's like for someone who's a step parent who's maybe never had kids to come into that situation. I've been parenting those kids since the day they were born. It's like second nature to me, but someone who's never done that really doesn't have any idea what to expect. So talking a lot about that, even, this might sound trite, but even pets. Like if both people have pets, how are you going to handle that? Do the pets get along? Do your pets sleep in the bed with you?
And my little Frankie, who's standing before me right now, and I'm sorry if you hear her bark, she sleeps in the bed with me. I'm a single person, and that's fine. But definitely, if you're dating, there's a point when that's not fine.
Yeah.
And
or maybe it's not fine with the person you're dating, and then Frankie's going to hate them because they're the one that made her get out of the bed.
Yes. And if you have children, that can be 10 times worse.
Yes.
Whatever you're doing, whatever the routines are that you have with your kids, that needs to be agreeable in your relationship if you're going forward.
And if you're the person coming into that and you're not agreeable with how the person's parenting their kids, that's going to be a red flag for you, because you're going to have some resentment about that. If you want to change their parenting style or their dog mom style, any of that. So these are kind of the bigger decisions that come up, especially when, as we get older and we have more of these big ties and we're more set in our ways. When you're 20, you're maybe a little bit more malleable, but those of us that are more mature, as I like to say, have bigger issues. Another thing that kind of falls along these lines is chores and how chores get done in a relationship. Goes a little bit back to being tidy or clean. That, figuring out before you jump into moving in with someone, what chores do you think need to be done in a house in general, and which of those chores are you willing to do versus what are you expecting someone else who might move in with you to do?
That has naturally always fallen in place for me in the relationships that I've been in, and I'm not sure if it's really that easy for others, but for me, I don't know if I just seem to have lawn boy written all over me.
You do look very at home with a lawnmower.
Lawn boy. That the assumption is that I'm the girl that's going to be taking care of most of the outdoor chores.
You're the daddy.
I'm the daddy. Yeah.
Let me tell you that Joe put a weed eater in my hands about one time. Oh, and she forbid me from touching it again because I just don't have that skill. And I will say I haven't tried real hard to acquire that skill. It is not something I aspire to, but I don't know how people edge a lawn with a weed eater. I just chop that all up.
Some girls are just better with power tools than others.
Well, I'm okay saying that I'm probably not one of those girls, but I got other skills. I got other skills.
You're not, and you do.
You need to whip out an email. I am your girl. I handle all the correspondence in our household, and Joe handles the weed eating.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty even trade.
I think there's a pattern in your picks. I think you pick daddies.
Perhaps I do. I like me a girl that looks like a teenage boy.
Yeah, you've never been with one.
I mean, when I was in the dating bee, I did. And I would like to say her name out loud because I would like to shout her out, but I will not. But she was real hot, and she looked like a teenage boy.
She probably appreciates you keeping that out in the down low.
That's right. And she owns a business, and I'm on her business email list, so I get a little reminder of her every few weeks. It's very nice. I always up to Joe, just FYI.
I know.
I'm always like, look, she's still hot.
I'm sure Joe appreciates.
Yeah, she doesn't mind. Joe doesn't get too insecure about things like that.
Well, this is a great teaser, because at some point we are going to be talking about, and when we get to the app dating, actually in the next episode,
yes,
we will be talking about what you think would make a good partner and what you are attracted to, or you think is the only type of person you're attracted to,
yes,
versus what is oftentimes the reality.
Yes. This is so true. And I'm really excited to get to that topic because there is so much out there to be said about dating on the apps and how to be successful at it. And we've got some good tips for you around that. But one of the things we will be discussing is attraction versus attractiveness. So if you lined up all the pictures of people you've dated side by side and had someone pick out objectively who the most attractive people are, they may not be the people that you're most attracted to. And so that plays a role in having success on the dating apps, because you might see a picture of someone you think is beautiful, and then you meet them in person and you're not attracted to them at all, and vice versa. So it's a fun little topic that we'll be discussing next time.
It will be our next episode. And would you like to share with the audience how they can share their thoughts, their questions with us, give us information?
Yes, we are really excited about this being an interactive process. So please send us your questions, your comments about the episode. If there's anything that you want to hear us discuss on the show, if you have a guest that you think would be an amazing guest to talk about women who date women, we would love to hear that, because we are going to be having some guests on. And the way to get that information to us is just shoot us an email. And our email is info@getdateable.com. info@getdateable.com. You can also find us on the gram @getdateable on Instagram, where neither of us is a big social media person, but we are trying real hard to provide some good content for you on Instagram.
Yes, we are. And be sure that you spell out the word dateable.
It's date and able. There is an E in the middle of that word. So thank you all so much for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex.
Stay dateable.
Dateable AF.